Well, hello again, dear friend. This is going to be fun. This one I'm really going to enjoy, and I think you're going to get a lot of value out of a lot of things I'm going to say. My name is Zach Treby. Welcome to Zach Treby School of Drums, where I help drummers build high-paying, successful careers that they can be happy with. All right, so let's get into it. All right, I'm very excited. So, this title, Why Your Cheap Bar Gigs Are Your Most Expensive Problem. Now, let me just back up here and say this video is clearly not for bar gig drummers who want to stay at bar gigs for the next 10, 15, 20 years. Nothing wrong with that. That's what I'm going to tell you. Okay? Nothing wrong with that. And I would say if that's what you have, great. Now, who this video is for, okay, is for the drummer who wants to make this a full-blown career, and it's totally available. That's why I teach my blueprint roadmap on how to get high-paying gigs, because in the end, it's a business, and that's exactly the switch that you have to switch to, okay? So that's who this video is for, okay? And even if you're not, right, a drummer who wants to gig scale and go for higher paying gigs, even just listening to this would definitely help, because there's some stuff that can help anybody in this particular podcast episode. Okay, let's get into it. So now, why do I say that the bar gigs, your cheap bar gigs, are your most expensive problem? Okay, so it depends what you're doing. Okay, so if you're a drummer who wants to level up, okay, let's get into what bar gigs charge. Okay, let's just take a minute here, right? And there's going to be a lot more to this than what I start off with. All right, so strap in. We're going to be a minute. Okay, so you can make a pretty good, decent pay with bar gigs. So, for instance, let's say you get paid for a 4-day weekend, okay? Thursday through Sunday, or even Wednesday through Saturday, something like that, right? And I've done that. And you can get anywhere from, like, if your gig is $200 a gig or something like that, right? 150, 200. You can walk away with, when all is said and done in a month, if you have that, you can walk away with about like 2,000, maybe 3,000, right? In that range. Now that's after it's clearly if you've literally done that for a while. Okay, you can build that up and you can make a pretty good chunk of change. Now, here is some of the downsides in doing that, because that's the thing. If you want to level up your career, I have some stories. So check this out. Now, during COVID, before I get into this whole thing, story time. During COVID, right, when there was nothing really happening, there was a few places open, and this one band reached out to me, and I wasn't really doing much. I was still teaching people how to get high-paying gigs, but not anywhere near what I'm doing now, right? So this one group, I'm going to name nameless, right, for various reasons, but they got me for a stint of time, and basically what was happening was I was playing a bunch of gigs of the places that were open, okay, with this one band. Now, of course, this was going anywhere from like 130 to like 150 because there was nothing else happening. The casinos were closed down. All my high-paying gigs were gone for the most part for the better part of 2 years, right, during COVID. Now, the issue with this particular band leader is this band leader was a lot of times, unbeknownst to the rest of the band, okay, was taking a lot of money off the top. And he claimed to have, let's say, he claimed to get the same pay as the rest of us, but that was not the case. He was charging quite a lot and only paying us like chump change. And his excuse was to pay off his PA. And I'm like, no. Like, you have to pay us better. Sorry. That's not right. Now, I caught that before everyone else did, okay? That's the thing. And I hightailed it out of there before everyone found that out. I had known what was going on because come on, like, how are you getting all these, all this work, and you're banking and buying new equipment all the time, and we're like, listen, this is COVID. We're trying to save money here, right? And when they keep the money, that's a, I hate to say it, that's a cheap person problem. Okay, that's not a manager and employee problem. No, that's a I'm gonna stay here for the rest of my life problem. That's what that is. So in other words, it's not a I'm gonna add value to the rest of my band. It's I'm gonna take. That's what that is. And this person has been through God knows how many turnovers and versions of his band. And listen, word gets around after a while, because what happens is, in which it did start to happen, he started to develop a reputation. But I saw this coming way before that, all right? And I even said it to people. I'm like, yeah, he's going to really struggle, because the circle becomes smaller and smaller and smaller with musicians, okay? Because that's what happens, especially in an area, especially if you stay in an area, a vicinity of gigs. Well, guess what? Word gets around to musicians. It's a very small world, right? So that happened, right? And then, like I said, it's not a cheap person. It's not a adding value issue. It's actually the opposite. It's a I'm going to get everything I can and keep my people cheap. Now, for some reason, people, certain band leaders that are doing that, they seem to think that the more gigs they get, the more value they're adding to their players. Well, not if you're a career-minded musician who wants to level up. That's different, okay? And that's what these particular band leaders aren't saying, or they're not thinking about, okay? And they know, because what people don't talk about is the burnout. And I mean the musician burnout, not the band leader burnout, the musician burnout, okay? And here's how it goes, all right? Before we get into all this stuff, okay? Why band leaders do that. And I'm talking about certain ones, okay? There are band leaders that pay their guys really well, okay? And if you're in that position, I would say stay there until you want to get your next one, okay? But the burnout phase that nobody tells you or talks about, okay? Again, this is for the successful career-minded musician, okay? Nothing wrong with bar gigs, but they're not going to last forever, okay? Meaning in your life, okay? If you're one of those drummers that want to get high-paying gigs, okay? You're going to have to do something different, and we're going to get into that. However, the burnout phase, okay? I was with a particular group, and, this person, there's a band leader, he was starting to, I hate to say it, he was starting to offend certain people, and that's not how you keep gigs. And especially not communicating with venues. If you kind of go cold and go, like, if you go cold or go silent, then guess what's going to happen? That particular gig is going to fall through, and you're going to find out the day of or the week of, and then you realize, wait, I didn't have a gig. What happened? And then that's a problem. Well, that's another story with another band. Okay, and what happened is I started to get burnt out because I had to somehow go and find other gigs, which looks really bad to other band leaders because, you'd think that you have your shit together. Now, how I found the burnout, and my body was starting to tell me, and I go, okay. And what had happened was, like, right before the gig would start, this started to happen like on a regular, is I would have to run for the bathroom. Funny enough, that's what my body was telling me. Like, how long are you going to keep this up? This is some time ago, okay? And that's when, and this is when I'm, building my teaching, my own teaching school, right? Which has evolved quite a bit now because now I do coaching and all these other things. So I had gone from higher paying gigs to just doing local gigs. And then I got some higher paying gigs close to home or closer, right? So I went back into the bar scene, which was a bad idea, to be honest. And I let that go quite a while ago. But that's how my body was starting to burn out, and I knew I had to stop the whole bar gig thing. Now, here's the thing: I was getting paid pretty well with this one group, but honestly, this person was just losing gigs. Like I said, if you go cold or silent, the venue owners are, in other words, you suck at business as a band leader. That's what this person was. And, listen, I can't blame the guy because, he was just trying to have fun. But the problem was you had career-minded musicians behind you, which were really good. But you put them in your particular box. That's a problem. Okay. And they're not going to want to stay there, right? Career-minded people are not going to stay with you. Okay. And, you'll hear certain terminology like, oh, I'm starting a new project. No, it's not. It's the same exact thing. I heard that before, okay? So that's a way your body can start to tell you that you're getting burnt out or you get super tired. Even just the thought of doing another gig makes you exhausted. Well, that's called burnout, okay? And it's okay to stop, okay? That's what people don't tell you. It's okay to stop and actually reassess and reevaluate your goals. I wish people had told me that. But we don't come out of the womb knowing that. We don't come into this world like just having things figured out. Okay? And for some reason a lot of people will try to know these things, which I'm like, yeah, right. Please. If everyone knew how to do this, there would be countless books on the market, and there'd be way more musicians than there are now. Now, the problem with these band leaders, especially the bar gig matrix, is, and this is what people won't tell you, they will try to get you and keep you for cheap. In both instances, that's what was happening, okay? And, no matter what you do in that particular matrix, the bar gig matrix, it's the equivalent of doing the exact same thing over and over and over again, expecting something different, some kind of different result or outcome. No, it doesn't work like that in the bar gig matrix. And I remember a bass player friend of mine. He actually has a band called the Georgia Five, and he runs it himself and been around for quite some time. And he gets paid quite a lot of money to book his band. And he said to me one day, this is a long time ago, he goes, Zach, don't get stuck in the $100 bar band matrix. And I was like, whoa. And at the time I didn't understand that because, again, you're not taught, okay, right out of the womb for all this. And I learned really quick. And it wasn't until I started learning music business, I just started researching and learning things and just saying, okay, I thought, okay, business has a pattern. And the real issue is musicians very rarely understand business. And I don't mean that they're stupid. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just saying the passion is good. Oh, believe me, the passion is good. But you got to take care of the business side first. Then you go all in with the passion, okay? And when I saw a pattern, everything's a pattern in business, okay? That's why I created the blueprint roadmap for getting high-paying gigs, because there is a pattern. And it, like any business, if you keep at it and grow or try to grow over time, guess what happens? You get what you initially wanted, okay? Hence, higher paying gigs. It's not that difficult. It's the same thing, but the reason is that we don't think about that is because we've been led to believe that somehow the music business is different, or the way to do business is different. No, it's not. It's the same thing. Everything costs money. That's what I'm talking about. So now, in order for people to invest behind you in money and pay you, you got to have the goods. Okay, that means skills, right? Obviously, as a drummer or any musician for that matter. And that's what my gig ready drumming challenges and business coaching teaches people how to do is how to be more business minded and how to go the ropes, okay? How to get through the ropes and climb them and all. It's not hard, okay? So check this out. Another thing with the bar band matrix, okay? Not only will they try to keep you cheap, right? And they're going to try and own you. They're going to try and get you all to themselves. Part of that burnout story I just mentioned was part of that, okay? And, this person wanted to keep me all for themselves. And me and the bass player would just kind of laugh. We're like, yeah, no, I'm not going to get rid of all my other gigs for that. You can't, I believe the way I said it to him was, you can't afford me. In other words, like that, okay? You can't afford me to that point. So now if he was paying me thousands and thousands of dollars, okay, that's a little different. It would basically, he would need to be a Taylor Swift or a Bad Bunny, where these musicians are getting paid like $3,000 to $5,000 a gig. So if you have 200 gigs, right, on tour, guess what? That price starts to add up to about, let's say, $500,000, maybe more than that. Okay, so it depends how much you're touring. But the point is the salary's pretty good. Or the money's pretty good, okay? And, listen, with the bar band matrix, they'll eat up your time, the band leaders, and they'll just do stupid crap. Like, one of my favorites, when this one band was starting to end, I don't know what this band leader was smoking, but he was great. But, I get it, but if they're rehearsing more than they're gigging, and this is in the bar band matrix, that's a problem. As a matter of fact, you should never go for that kind of thing, okay? Because they'd rather spend your hard-earned money on rehearsing at a studio that costs a lot of money instead of, they play like one time a month, okay? And they rehearse more. That doesn't make any sense to me. So they're going to cost you money, okay? They're going to eat up your time, and they're going to cost you money, okay? Less gigs, more rehearsal. If that's the case, you don't belong playing gigs. Sorry. Please. So check this out. That's one of the reasons why you do not want to get stuck in the bar band matrix, okay? Now, how to get out of that, check it out. So, the next step up to that is tribute gigs, right? Stuff like that, or cruise ship gigs. They're both the same, right? They're just on a different level, okay? That's why it's good to start at the bar band, but don't stay there, okay? Don't stay there, and you don't have to, okay? Yes, I understand that people are going to recommend you, and that's true, but you can actually get there a lot faster than you think. You don't need people all the time for that, okay? Yes, it is who you know, but it is also how you market yourself. Again, we're talking about business, right? That's the key. And there are ropes to this. It's not hard. And again, in my Gig Ready drumming challenges, we go through this in the 5 multi-day challenge. And I show you guys and my students how to do this. I do it in the coaching clients. It's not hard, and they realize, oh my God, it's so easy. Example, okay. Gig scripts, what are those? Okay, what a gig script is basically if you were to look up a music director, okay? And I've been saying this for a while. So go try to find, the let's say you want to get into a Broadway pit, okay? Find that musical director or music conductor and send them an email. And here's what you don't do. Here's what you don't do. Make it all about you. That's what you don't do. They'll figure out real quick who you are, okay? Just send them your website. That's not hard, okay? They'll understand you're a drummer. It's not hard. It doesn't matter how good you are. It actually matters how much you can serve them, okay? How can you serve them? And that's what you want to say. How can I serve you? Or how can I serve you and the artist? So if it's a Taylor Swift or somebody like that, everyone's online. You have to understand that. Everybody's online. It's not that difficult, okay? And that's one of the ways you can get better gigs, okay? And even if they particularly don't have something for you at the time, they're going to talk to the other people and go, hey, I just talked to this drummer and, he said some great stuff and maybe you could use him. And then next thing you know, you have a high-paying gig. Now, the great thing about the cruise ship gigs, okay, is all you have to do is audition for that, right? Either in person or online. I didn't do any bar gigs before going into the cruise ships. Okay. I came out of college, right? And I went right in. Okay. Because at the time, there was no such thing as online, because this is before YouTube, right? Or before social media. Okay. It was like 2002 or 3. And, or I think it was 2001, actually. I don't remember. It was one of those. So I just went right into the cruise ship scene, and I learned real quick. And I kind of wish I had the bar band scene covered already, because I realized it would have been the same thing. Okay. Just on a different scale. The only difference is you're not playing like 3, 4, 5 times a week. You're playing pretty much like 6 days a week, sometimes twice a day. All right. You do a matinee with the show band, and then you'll do the other gig maybe like an hour or two later. So, and you know, the shows will change from day to day. So you don't know if you're doing a tribute gig, a theater gig, a jazz band gig, you know, you name it. It changes all the time. And it's a high sight reading skill level gig. Okay. So I learned real quick, and I found out that bar band gigs were way easier. See, now I wish someone would have told me all this. And I had so many mentors, and they're not getting paid to tell you all this stuff. So, you know. Anyway, so that is part of why your cheap bar gigs are your most expensive problem, especially when the band leaders aren't paying you very much and they're trying to keep you there and own you. It does happen. It does. And they're going to try to get you to treat them like they're the greatest thing since sliced bread. And you'll find out real quick that they're not. You're going to be like, wait a minute. No, this is a bunch of crap. Now, listen, again, not every band leader does that. Relax. Okay. But let's think about it. That's all they know. If that's all they've done, then clearly that's not for you. It can be for a while, but usually it's not. Okay. So, but yeah, the gig scripts, that's that could be another avenue. Okay. And, definitely building a YouTube channel. That's another thing, because remember, I'm talking about promotion and eyes. Okay. Whatever you got to do, you got to just play live, get on YouTube or social media, whatever your platform is that people can see you. Okay. And by the way, when you're doing these bar gigs and all these things, right, document everything. And I mean document everything. Put a video up. You have an iPhone, put it up. I'm telling you right now. I'm telling you, the more proof you can have of you doing stuff, the better. I'm not kidding. Okay? It helps. Okay? Yeah, I'm just going to leave that there. So a lot of this stuff that I've shared is really from the Gig Ready Drummer Challenges that I run. And it's funny enough, we're about to start one on the 8th, I believe, which is Monday. And so there's a few people sign up for that. I think about like 2 or 3, which is fine. I mean, I don't really care how many people sign up. I'm just glad that I get to serve them, which is great. So, if you want to get your high-paying gigs going and you're not sure how to do it, or, there's so many ways. And I show people how to scale their gigs. It's not hard. There's so many ways to do that. I'm telling you, if someone would have shown me this instead of me figuring it out like ages ago, I would have been like, oh my God, I can do all these like relatively shortly, or a lot more shorter than I did. Okay. So anyway, good friend, it was great talking with you. And that's just a little bit on why your cheap bar gigs are your most expensive problem. And again, who this video is for people who want to scale their gigs and make a living or a successful career at playing drums at a high-paying gig level. So this is not for the bar band drummer, and there's nothing wrong with that, but as long as people understand who I'm talking to, that's really what's important, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. I know a lot of people who do play in bar bands, and they're happy as clams. Then keep doing it. If that brings you joy, great. But if it doesn't, and you want more, okay, then do something different. So, good friend, I'm going to leave you with that. And and the Gig Ready Drummer Challenge, the link I'll leave in the description below. Okay. So, good friend, great to see you. And until next time.